Boris Johnson, he ditches, the Daily Mail says, the nanny state ban on buy one, get one free junk food deals to soften the blow of the cost of living crisis. Not surprisingly, he's now delayed that in an attempt to show the government trying to deal with many of the pressures on family incomes. This is just one way of amongst a number he's bringing forward. Health lobby, not happy, saying that this ultimately should not have been set back. It should have, in fact, been brought in earlier. Joining me to kick off this conversation, I'm very pleased to welcome Professor Graham McGregor, Chairman of Action on Sugar and Action on Salt, who is also a Professor of Cardiovascular Medicine at Queen Mary University of London. Professor McGregor, welcome.
Thank you. From Aldi and Lidl. And there are very few offers now. If you go into the supermarket, you may have noticed, not that I go very often, but
do you know what
I've been to.
The one thing we probably would find common ground in is I kind of accept the reasons why buy one, get one free has been, if you like, sort of extended. We'll probably not agree on that. The advertising I don't necessarily understand. What evidence do you have to suggest how much advertising drives buy one, get one free?
So are you talking about
the advertising of buy one, get one free? You kicked off by saying that's still allowed to happen.
No, it's not the advertising of buy one, get one free. It's advertising of junk food. All the advertisements you see on television and online.
Yeah, what influence does the advertising have? How powerful is that? Do you have evidence on how
absolutely.
many people it persuades?
Yeah, of course we did. I mean, of course we do. There's a huge amount of evidence that advertising increases sales and increases unhealthy food.
But by what proportion? I genuinely don't know, which is why I'm asking, and I'm inclined to agree with you about this.
I can't give you an exact answer. I have to have noticed that. But I mean...
Joining us now, perhaps with a contra-view, Jason Reed, UK lead at Young Voices and political commentator. Jason, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Nick.
Now, I don't know if you heard that interview. I'm pleased that the ban has been rolled back. I actually agree with the professor that it'll probably never come in now as it happens. But don't you think there is a price for health here? Because the manufacturers aren't living up to their promise, are they, to make the food healthier?
Well, I do hope that the ban never comes in. I think it's an absolutely bonkers idea to be piling additional costs on top of people's food bills, their shopping bills, when we have a cost of living crisis going on for no reason at all. There is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that this is going to make people less obese. And you were asking the professor for the detailed information about the advertising restrictions and how persuasive they would be. I have the data in front of me. This is from the government's own research into its own policy. They predict that their advertising restrictions would remove, on average, 1.7 calories from kids' diets per day. 1.7 calories. That's roughly the equivalent of half a Smartie. In other words, it's going to make no difference at all to how overweight anyone is.
So why would they ban it then?
It's virtue signalling. It's nanny state virtue signalling. It's this kind of patronising mentality. It's really tragic that we have a Conservative government that is pushing this nanny state nonsense, this patronising, infantilising way of thinking, that they look at obesity rates in the country and they think, well, it must just be that people can't control themselves when they see buy one, get one free, or when they see an advert for a burger on the TV. And so we need the benevolent hand of government to reach down and help them. It's absolute nonsense. There's no evidence that it will work, and it will bring huge costs both for people's wallets and for industry more broadly, because when you crack down on advertising in this way, it's obviously not good for investment.
What the professor wasn't able to answer convincingly, I thought, was he believed that, if you like, not proceeding with the ban would cost them more money. And I think I managed to disprove in my discussion with him there that that didn't stack up, because if you were taking away something, by definition, you were going to have to spend, it was going to cost you more money. If I paid the same amount of money and lost half my hamburgers, I'd be very unhappy. But where is the responsibility for eating bad food? With the consumer or with the manufacturer?
Well, in this case, it's neither. We are approaching obesity in the wrong way. We're looking at it as a problem that needs urgently to be solved, and whether we need to sort of intervene in people's recipes to make that happen. But that's completely the wrong way of thinking about it, because that's when you go down the road of taxes and bans. And I know that Professor McGregor's group, Action on Sugar, is strongly in favour of a sugar tax, because they think that is going to convince chocolate companies, for example, to reformulate their recipes to use less sugar.
They would point to drinks and say it's worked with fizzy drinks.
I'm afraid it hasn't worked, because the data shows that since Theresa May's soft drinks sugar tax came in, people make different choices when they find that their drinks are more expensive. They either go for an own brand, cheaper alternative, which is just as sugary, or they fork out the extra money to get the drink that they want. There's very little evidence to show people actually consuming less sugar. And these statements are completely contradictory. They also admit that fat has a much higher calorific impact than sugar does. All of this is just completely
But Jason, you wouldn't want to sit here and advocate someone goes and has a Coca-Cola that is stuffed with sugar if they were ignorant of the fact that if you drink half a dozen of those a day, you're definitely heading into problems, would you?
But nobody's ignorant of it. That's the problem. We are trying to solve an issue that doesn't actually exist. People know that Coca-Cola has sugar in it. We don't need these nanny statists to come along and put a big flashing red label on it.
They'd be buying all the sugar-free if they really knew that this was bad for them, wouldn't they?
I don't think that's necessarily true. People weigh up costs, people take risks. I take risks every day by eating sugar, and I'm fine with that because it enriches my life. It's not the place of the government to be coming in and telling people your dietary choices are wrong. And it's definitely not, there's not any need for the government to be putting big flashing red neon labels on things to tell people this has got sugar on it. Of course it's got sugar in it. Everybody knows that.
I think you're being far too generous to what people know there, Jason. And even though I consider myself broadly in the same camp as you, I think on that one we'll have to part on a slightly different note. But thank you very much for joining me. That's Jason Reed, UK lead at Young Voices and political commentator.